AATBirds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need.
Quick, he's going to go. What a give it to Smith, and they stop him again. Go back. He looks, fires for the end zone, intercepted, the 20, the 10, the 5, touchdown, Matt Ware, midfield, he's going to go, Deshaun Jackson. He steps up, he's hit, and falls forward, and he fumbles the football, and the Eagles have it, it's gone, and the Eagles win.
It's all birds, all the time.
And welcome to another edition of the AATBirds Weekly Report. Joined by Kendall. We are going to dive in a little bit. The NFL draft is this month. It's actually 3 weeks away. So a lot to talk about, a lot to kind of get into here. I want to do a little bit of some NFL draft talk. There's a lot of stuff going around. Team players doing their top 30 visits. You got all that going on. Also, I want to do a little Eagles mock. Kendall and I will do a Eagles only mock draft. We'll put ourselves into Howie Roseman's shoes. We're not going to really pick as ourselves per se. We're going to kind of have a little bit of the Eagles on the mind. I did post a mock draft earlier this week on Instagram and Twitter, and I went a little bit out of the ordinary. I didn't do what they would usually do, but got a little bit of play. A lot of people not liking it. So we'll kind of give a mock draft of what we think the Eagles would do. And then we'll end it with, I saw a tweet today I want to bring up. I'm not going to get into it until later on in the show. It's just a fun little exercise I thought
Okay.
would be pretty fun to do. But
Okay.
start off, how you doing, Kendall?
Good. Ready for the draft. I'm tired of all the mock drafts. I'm ready to just get to the real thing. I don't do any mock drafts because it's just, all that work just to not know the outcome. I did my one and only mock draft right before the draft. So excited for that. But until then, let's get the show on the road.
Yeah. Mock drafts are tough. Like I like looking at it and seeing what trades get offered and stuff like that when you do like one of the simulators and everything. But like I do it and I get to like round 4, like you get to round 4 or 5 and then it goes all the way to 7. You're looking at it like, nah, I don't like the way that went. So I stop. Like, or I do it and I'm like, nah, I don't really like that. I don't want to put I don't post many. I may do maybe 2 or 3 posts, but I try not to overload the mock drafts because it just becomes like, what are you doing here? So
yeah, it gets to be very overwhelming.
Yeah, very overwhelming. But, talking a little bit about the draft with it coming up here and looking at the prospects and looking at the Eagles and kind of what they need along the lines of that. Now, the Eagles did sign a free agent after, it seems like after every show, they wind up signing somebody. It's happened like the last 3 weeks. Pretty funny. So on last week, they signed Contavious Street, the defensive tackle out of, he originally was from NC State. Got hurt there, was drafted by the 49ers, played with the 49ers a couple years, and then he played with the New Orleans Saints last year. He had 3.5 sacks for the Saints last year. He's a depth player with some experience that can kind of do a number of things, which is kind of what you've been seeing the Eagles do this offseason. And I know, Kendall, you've kind of touched on it with what they've been doing this offseason in regards to, you looking at the draft, but kind of what this team is doing in terms of building the roster, not having gaping holes going into the draft.
Yeah, I mean, there's different things they need to address. And I had a tweet earlier this week about them like tipping their hand. And yes, Howie Roseman doesn't tend to do that. But, with the way they prioritize, the offensive line or just different positions in general, with the way they've been moving this offseason, you can tell they're trending in a direction that they're going to be addressing during the draft. I don't know if you saw the Honest NFL tweet about the safety position and about how he might think about
earlier today
because he was on the Jordan Davis situation last year and he was spot on with it. The Eagles haven't drafted a safety in the first round in very long time, but things can change obviously. But I think that's a real possibility with Branch from Alabama. We could see maybe second round them addressing the safety position, but that's why I feel like they would draft potentially an offensive lineman first round as well, because the depth is just not there. You have Driscoll, you've maybe Sua Peta, but you need to fill those gaps, because let's say Lane goes down, let's say Jordan Melita goes down, or Jurgens, Dickerson, so on and so forth. You need somebody to fill those gaps, and you need reliability, you need talent. So with them not addressing the linemen during the market, I feel as if they're looking to do it in the draft.
Yeah, and it's of course we all know that things can happen after the draft with how it falls and everything, and signing free agents, because there's a number of guys still out there. But yeah, the depth there at the offensive line position, you do have to think that the Eagles will go and address that in terms of, hey, if it's not a first round pick, maybe in the second round they get someone who's somewhat versatile that can do a number of things, whether it's guard, tackle, center guard, can play all three positions on the line, center guard, tackle, depending on what.
Right.
But you could see them going that route. You could see them going. And again, when you look at the offensive line, it's what they value. They value the offense and defensive lines. So when you look at the way the team is structured and everything that they're doing, yes, they're signing these value free agents that may be able to hit. Like last year, they signed Kaiser White, and it was a good signing for what they signed him for. So
a lot of upside.
If you're able to get a couple of these signings to be somewhat of what you got from Kaiser White or the other players that you've done in recent years, to me, I think, looking at the draft and looking at the first round, I don't know what they're going to do. You think, hey, I think they're going to trade back, just because you look at the mid-round fifth, sixth, or fourth, fifth, and sixth rounds. There's no picks. They have no picks this year. Do they want to go ahead and add one or two picks there just to have some picks in the middle rounds? Because they've done really well in the middle rounds in recent years.
They have been
over their history. Because I posted earlier this week about the 2018 draft. Yes, they drafted Dallas Goedert with the second round pick, but the rest of that draft, they had 2 fourth rounds with Avonte Maddox and Josh Sweat. Both got big contracts. Both are, starters on this team. And
key players.
Of course, Dallas Goedert's a big player as well. He was a second round pick. And then you look at, Matt Pryor wasn't what they thought he was going to be. But again, he started last year, and he started a lot of games as a 6th round pick. And then Jordan Mailata was the 7th round pick and 7th round jewel. And it's funny because the following year was kind of a big time dud with the Andre Dillard and everything that went along the lines of that. And the one thing when you look at the draft, and I know people want to bring up the Jalen Reagor in the first round, they want to bring up Andre Dillard, those picks not hitting. But when you bring up an Andre Dillard, you have to say, hey, they hit on Jordan Mailata.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to bring that up because, yes, Andre Dillard didn't pan out to be what they thought he was going to be. But the main thing about it is Jordan Mailata outplayed him and outshined him and wound up being this offensive left tackle, future left tackle for the future for you that was able to step in and play really well. So, yeah, Andre Dillard may have been a very serviceable, good starter for you for multiple years, but you didn't get to see that to fruition because of Jordan Mailata. And I think a lot of people don't think about that. They just think about, oh, he was a bust. That was a terrible pick. But they don't kind of look back to the previous draft that year.
Right. And when you compare this offseason to what they did back in 2018 after the Super Bowl, it's kind of giving the same vibe because in 2018, they signed Mike Wallace to a 1-year deal. They brought in Bennett Martellus. Is that right?
Michael Bennett, they traded for.
Michael Bennett. And then they brought in Haloti Ngata. A lot of guys on 1-year deals. And obviously, they didn't pan out because, injuries and obviously just, age. But you can see a similar path with this year, with a lot of 1-year deals, a lot of higher upside for low cost. But I think with this year, you're looking at younger guys who were drafted higher, who have a way, way higher ceiling. But then again, it's just about avoiding those injuries, and you're only paying them, $600,000 guaranteed. I mean, you have like 5 or 6 guys. I think Thomas Peterson posted today about like the combined number. It's a very, very small number, and those guys have high ceilings. Maybe 2 of them might pan out to be productive players. But if you can get at least 2 of those guys to produce at a high level, that's all you need, and that's going to be, a high level hit for those kind of signings.
Yeah, and you bring up 2018. So I'll give you this, though. So 2018, you can kind of point some similarities. The one similarity I'll point to is losing a lot of key players. That's in the 2018 offseason. They lost a lot of players from that Super Bowl team, some key components of that Super Bowl team. But the players they replaced them with were aging. They're not doing that this year. They're getting guys who are 26, 27 years old. They're not getting guys into their 30s. So that could be one difference. And when you look at the players that left off of that roster from the 2017, and guys like Bo Allen and LeGarrette Blount, Trey Burton, Patrick Robinson, and then you had guys like Donnie Jones and Brent Selleck and Vinny Curry, Michael Kendricks. And then you traded away Torrey Smith for Darryl Worley. And
that was funny.
Yeah, the problem is it didn't really work well. So, and the players you signed didn't work well either.
Right.
Corey Nelson didn't work out. Haloti Ngata was older. Mike Wallace got hurt in the second game, I believe. First or second game. He got hurt. Paul Warlow didn't pan out. Richard Rodgers didn't really pan out, but then came back, then left, then came back, then left. So they had a lot of players that it's a little bit different. I could see the similarities.
And then they're also learning from their mistakes. And this is where, I give a lot of, crap on Carson Wentz and, his inability to make things work out. But end of the day, they did not give him enough talent or just enough weapons to use. I mean, Kamar Aiken was his number 2 receiver week 2 against the Bucs 2018. So what Howie Roseman is doing this offseason or just moving forward, he has Smitty, he has AJ Brown, Goddard. I wouldn't rule out a receiver early second round, maybe even first, potential of Bijan Robinson. He wants to get his offense loaded so that Jalen Hurts has a stability of weapons. And that's what Carson Wentz didn't have. And that was a mistake they did when they did have Wentz and when he had him under contract. So they're trying to learn from their mistakes in 2018 and moving forward. What about him? It's tough to do because different cap situations, different contracts, but they're trying their best to learn from it. And, they want to get back to the Super Bowl, and their window is so big right now. The NFC is it's deflated. I mean, Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in this conference, and it's not even close. And, the Niners, sure, they might have got, Javon Hargrave, they might have upgraded, but who's their quarterback? They have a lot of things to worry about themselves. And the Eagles, sure, they lost some bodies, but they're still in the same position to run it back, essentially.
Yeah, and the one thing I look about with the Eagles, and you look at the defense and look at the defense for them. Yes, they've lost some players, but they've also kept some players, like you said, running it back with the corners, with Slay and Bradbury. And looking at the draft, coming up with the 10th pick, all depending on how everything falls, if for some reason a quarterback happens to fall and a team behind them want to jump up, the Eagles could be in for, a pretty big haul there. So there's a lot to happen come draft night. And, looking at it, if say the quarterbacks are all gone and you get to that point and a player like Jalen Carter is still on the board, I think it would be all depending on how they see him. And I know he was there for a top 30 visit. I think it would be pretty hard to kind of pass him up as long as everything, legal, everything pans out. He's not going to be suspended, all that stuff.
Right.
Of course you have to worry about, but if he winds up falling to them and they can get a player like his caliber at number 10 to pair on that defensive line with former college teammates, Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis, I think that'd be one heck of a steal there at number 10.
That's the thing for the Eagles in this whole, situation of what they're going to do. It truly, and this might sound like, the obvious, it truly depends on what happens in front of them. If the Lions pass on Carter, that's going to set up the Bears to, potentially land Carter. But I've heard that the Bears would even be willing to pass on Carter for Skoronski. So if that happens, then boom, you've Carter in your lap. And clearly, from what Daniel Jeremiah said, that apparently, in his eyes, the Eagles told him, "Hey, we're not letting you get past us." But then again, if the Lions take Carter, let's say Bears go Skoronski, then what do? They're trading back. So it's all about what happens in front of them. And, that's what makes Howie Roseman so good, is that he has all these plans and he has everything just lined up, different scenarios left and right as to what to do, because you have to be prepared on draft night. Because let's say the Titans move up to third overall pick. Boom, there's 3 quarterbacks the first 3 picks. Now you have Will Anderson dropping. You have, so on and so forth, dropping Tyree Wilson. And so there's going to be a lot of things that happen. And there's a very good chance this draft benefits greatly for the Eagles, and they can get a stud at 10, and then they can potentially, maybe move up later from 30 or move back. Because previous years when they had 2 first-round picks, the way their cap situation was okay, they're probably not going to use both picks. But with the Eagles, what they have, the amount of cap they have now, I do wonder if they have a vision of using both first-round picks, because there's a lot of cap space still available. You can always make a move for somebody, but, it's kind of hard to do because of, future contracts and whatnot. But I would love to see them make 2 first-round picks. If they can land Carter, Skoronski, or whoever else, and then, come out and get Branch, 30 or whatever else, that would be a very, very A-plus draft for the Eagles.
Yeah, and if you look at it, if they're able to trade back, say 6-7 spots, because a team wants to trade up and get a quarterback or get whoever that falls in that first portion of the draft, and the Eagles, they move down 6 or 7 spots, but they still get maybe two picks later on, as well as getting that pick 6 or 7 spots down. I think they could definitely draft 2 players in the first round, because they got something. And to me, I just think when you look at it, yes, they have 2 first-round picks. To keep kind of trading out to try to get extra first-round picks prior, next year to the next year, especially when you look at next year, they have the Saints' second-round pick. They're supposed to have a ton of compensatory picks. They're going to have, upwards of 12 picks right now, possibly could be more if they do any types of trades and get some extra picks. So for me, it's just, I could definitely see them using those 2 picks, especially with all the money that they cleared up. But we'll kind of see. We'll see what they do. You just got to kind of read the tea leaves. They're not going to go out there and tell you exactly what they're going to do, but you try and read as much into it as you can. Speaking of reading into it, I want to kind of get your thought on. There was 2 guys, Sando, Mike Sando. I think it's Mike Sando, the NFL, and Sal Pal. Both said something pretty interesting, talking about Jalen Hurts and his contract extension, and talking about taking a Patrick Mahomes type of deal, basically a very team-friendly type of deal. Now, I could somewhat see that, just because of the way Hurts is and the way he understands, how everything works. But that's very interesting, 2 people coming out and saying that.
It's very interesting because, not to take away what Jalen Hurts is as a quarterback and who he is, but whether we want to admit it or not, his play style is very hard to commit long term. And when I say long term, I mean what Patrick Mahomes is getting. He's getting 10 years for how much $1 million. So it might be structured Mahomes-ish, Mahomes-esque, but I think it would probably be somewhat more similar to what they give Carson, probably a 6-year, and then.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be 10 years. I don't think that would be 5 to 6 years. I could see.
But the structure-wise, if he takes a discount, that would be big. And for it to come from Sal Powell and from another guy, it means it's out there, it's floating around. And I said this before in my previous tweets. I'm willing to bet the numbers are already in. That they already have something agreed to, a number. They're just waiting for the roster just to come complete and just to get that unfolded. And then from there, you can figure out how you want the numbers figured out and laid out in the future. So with that being said, I'm sure there's some truth to it. It's just a matter of how much of a discount, because you have guys out here like Lamar Jackson who are wanting this amount of guaranteed money. Who knows how much he wants yearly, but it's going to be interesting if he comes out and he gets, let's say, I don't know, I would say 6 years, 200 and what, $15 million. Like that's going to be, I don't know. It's going to be different. It's going to be hard for other quarterbacks to negotiate. You know what I mean? It's going to pretty much reset the market, but for a different reason. You know what I mean?
And I think it's interesting to think about in terms of the quarterback market and thinking, looking at Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, and nothing's agreed upon, and he can talk to whatever. I guess everything has to be by beginning of July. Now the draft's in 3 weeks. The Colts are really interested, but they don't want to sign him. Try to sign him now because they need a quarterback. They have nobody on their roster. So if they go ahead in the draft and they don't draft any quarterback, and then they could go ahead and say after the draft and try and offer Lamar Jackson a huge deal, whether the Ravens accept it or not. The Ravens don't accept it, then they trade 2 first-round picks, but it's not the 4th overall pick that they have in this draft. So there's a lot of things with that. That's interesting that I've been thinking about.
I don't think so. I think for both quarterbacks that have like question marks on them, it's Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers. I think both those guys don't get moved until during the draft or after the draft. And especially Lamar, because Lamar, again, I'm sure the Colts, they're probably already talking to Lamar, but they don't want to give up the fourth overall pick. You want to invest that pick into your future. Yeah. So they have the leverage of, being able to wait and then, discussing a deal later on because, you can give up that first round pick in 2025. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting situation. And, we're very fortunate that Jalen's going to probably get paid before him. They're hoping to, pay Jalen before Burrow, before Herbert, because, besides maybe Dak Prescott, they're really only that's only their competition. So, there's not too much going on for them where they should be concerned. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because looking at a team like the Colts and the Ravens talking trade or whatever they may do. You look at it this way, they trade Lamar Jackson. What do they have? Because I don't think they believe in Tyler Huntley. And then where do they go from there? Because if you have the 4th pick, then you have a pick of potentially, getting somebody, whether it's one of the last quarterbacks left. If, the top 3 take, you have an opportunity to select somebody with high caliber talent. Now where they're picking now in the first round, I don't know. Do they even have a first round pick? I think they do. The Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, they do.
I think they do. But it's late.
If there's one person I feel very confident at one quarterback in the draft, I feel that's obviously not Stroud or Bryce Young, but I feel very confident going to. I feel very confident Will Levis either going to the Vikings or the Ravens, because I think the Vikings, from what I've heard, they're going to be moving up or hoping someone falls to them where they can draft their I'm going to say I think Will Levis is going to be a Viking because I think they're going to do the Mahomes situation. Will Levis is an undeveloped talent, but he has, those tangibles. And I think they have Kirk until next year. You have Levis sit this year, you let him learn, then you throw in the fire next year. So I think if the Ravens, obviously, they draft a quarterback, that means they plan on moving on. Or, they can pull a card of, what the Eagles did with Hurts and Wentz. So
I don't know why it is, but the more and more I think of Hendon Hooker, the more and more I see him as a Raven. I don't know what I just.
It'd be crazy, wouldn't it?
He's 25 years old. He's coming off an ACL injury. Whether he has to sit, a little portion of this season until he's fully healthy enough, they have maybe Tyler Huntley start if they get rid of Lamar.
I think Tyler's a free agent. I think
he was a restricted free agent. They put a tender on, so I think.
Oh, okay.
I think he's going to be back for them. But you could potentially see that. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's the fun aspect of it is the Eagles aren't involved in looking for a quarterback and hoping somebody falls to them and hoping that's the good part of it because we don't have to worry about that. And then, that's really good in my opinion. I hate to talk about that.
The more the quarterbacks go top 10, which I mean, it's possible 4 can go to top 10. I mean, it's not likely, but if a team gets desperate, or it would be hard for a fourth team to take a quarterback in 10, because it means somehow the Lions would have to convince they're drafting somebody, or on the Cardinals. I don't know. It would be hard for a fourth team to jump in, but there's a real possibility. Obviously, 3 go for the first 10, but the more quarterbacks go the first 10, the better it is for the Eagles, because that means the more talent drops.
Especially if, like you said, especially if a team trades up with the Cardinals to draft the quarterback, and you have the Colts behind them, what they do. And I think the real telltale sign is if the Colts don't take a quarterback at 4, I think that's a real telltale sign of kind of what they're thinking, especially with the Lamar and stuff like that. So
if they take a tackle, or if they move back and take a tackle, you know what's going on with them, because they need to address the offensive line. And if you're going to invest $250 into Lamar Jackson, you got to make sure he's protected, because you're not going to invest that much money in him just to be a liability of an injury. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But so we're talking draft. We got to talk we got to talk a mock draft. So we're going to do an Eagles mock draft, Eagles only mock draft. So the way it'll work is you and I will go back and forth. I'm going to do the first pick because I can do whatever I want.
You got it.
But with trades, you and I can kind of discuss whether or not it's smart to do, whether we want to do it, stuff like that. But we'll just go back and forth and see kind of where we have this draft. I know last time we did a mock draft, it was 4 of us doing it.
Right.
So this is a little bit.
Can we go slow and see the pick by pick?
We could do that. Let me add it to the stream here. So let me put normal speed. Is that better?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
All right, here we go. So let's draft. And
I do think Bryce eventually goes first. Interesting. I think Anthony Richardson goes to the Colts.
Oh, so there was a trade up there. Okay, so there are trades for the
Atlanta
Eagles.
traded up.
The Bears traded down with the Texans. So I'm just gonna. Okay, so
yeah,
we'll
I mean,
trade first. So I'm not trading with the Cowboys. We could just reject that.
No.
So the Saints want to trade.
No, it's horrible.
That's just way not enough. You move them 19 spots, not really getting anything. The Giants.
Nope. If you're going to come from 25 to 10, you need to give at least a first of next year, because it's shown in previous years that's what it takes. When you have to make that much of a jump, you have to do that. And I mean,
especially with who's on the board, because exactly where I'm going. I'm not even going to hesitate.
This is a home run.
But I'm going to kind of break down what we've seen so far. So Bryce Young went number 1 to Carolina, C.J. Stroud to Houston, Tyree Wilson to the Cardinals, Will Levis to the Colts, Will Anderson to Seattle, Christian Gonzalez to the Lions, Broderick Jones to the Raiders, Paris Johnson Jr. to the Falcons, Miles Murphy in a trade up with the Bears. He went to the Houston Texans, which again, the Texans hit 2 of their needs there. They need edge rushers, and they need quarterbacks. So that's pretty good on their end. So for me, of course, I did not say Jalen Carter's name. I'm not letting him get any longer down the board. I really don't have to kind of tell you why. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. I'm going to go Jalen Carter here.
I mean, so with the whole Jalen Carter situation, it is very fascinating, because you have the Bears, who obviously they weren't going to be taking a quarterback, and they obviously weren't going to be picking at number 1. But if they were to be picking at number 1, their clear choice would have been Jalen Carter. But with everything that unfolded, it's like, okay, now they might be going in a different direction. And I was sent a video from a source, and basically it was Brian Bowles giving he was asked a question about the situation about character or whatnot, and how when it comes down to it, do you draft at this point of where the team is at? Do you draft for talent, or do you draft for a secure talent but doesn't have character issues? And he basically hinted that he's going to prioritize safety and the ability to be on the field and not have to be a liability. So I don't think it would be a surprise if they do pass on Carter and he lands in the Eagles' lap, but it would just be so full circle if that just happens, because how crazy is that? Carter would have been their choice at 1 just for him, just for them to pass on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And looking at the rest of the first round before the Eagles' next pick, so the Titans go Peter Skoronski. So the Bears trade again down, and the Bucks trade up to get Anthony Richardson, which is very interesting. The Jets go Lucas Van Ness, Devin Witherspoon to the Patriots, Cam Smith to the Packers, Keely Ringo to the Commanders, Jackson Smith Najigma to the Steelers, Brian Brees to the Lions. Then you have Jordan Addison to the Bears, finally making.
Listen, if the Bears are drafting a receiver first round, it is Jackson Smith and Jigba. 100%. They will reunite Justin Fields with him. That will happen.
The Seahawks go Quentin Johnston. The Chargers go Bijan Robinson, which is actually pretty interesting. It's funny the way this. I like
Eckler,
Pro Football Network, because the way they kind of do the draft, it's very more realistic than some of the other ones out there. When you go simming it, look at the next pick: Joey Porter Jr. to the Ravens, Brian Branch to the Vikings, Deontay Banks to the Jaguars, Isaiah Foskey to the Giants, Michael Mayer to the Cowboys. They get a tight end. Jalen Hyatt to the Bills, Nolan Smith to the Bengals, and BJ Ojulari to the Saints. So the Eagles are on the clock for 30. Here are the trade offers: 30 and 248 to the 49ers for 99, 101. But I just don't. I'm going to say no on that. I think that's another no. The Jets, just one pick.
No.
I think this would be a good one. You're just
moving. Let's think about it. What do they need? They might draft tackle.
They may go Darnell Wright or Anton Harrison.
Well, yeah.
Or DeJuan Jones.
Can you go out of that and then look at who's available? Yeah. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit.
So there's.
Okay, I kind of have an idea who I'm going to go here. And
so, do you want to make that trade? Just move down one spot.
Yeah, just get an extra pick.
An extra higher pick. And it's not really getting an extra pick. We're losing 219 in the 7th round, but we're gaining 95. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah.
And they go Anton Harrison, and we get offered more.
So I'm very surprised this player is available, because I feel as if this is somebody who the Eagles could go if they trade back from 10. Let's say they trade back from 10 to 15 or 17.
So am I gonna decline these other trades?
Yeah. We're gonna stay here. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. Anyways, so with the guy that I was going to originally be taking, if available, at 30, which still is available, this guy is definitely a possibility at 10, but assuming they would trade down because he'd probably still be available, is Kalijah Kancey. I think he's a real possibility within the top 15 if the Eagles trade back.
You're going to go 2 defensive tackles in the first.
Bro, think about it. Fletcher Cox, aging, almost done.
Yeah.
Milton Williams, yes, they like him a lot, but he's not good against the run. And like, if you watch the Super Bowl highlights, like, he was getting just cooked. So, I mean, it would be kind of a reach, but when you can secure your defensive line like that, let's go. It was either between him, go back up.
I was thinking Darnell Wright in Tennessee.
Mine would have been DeJuan Jones.
Oh, I could see DeJuan Jones.
I like DeJuan Jones a lot, just because he's underdeveloped and he doesn't need to play. And this is where, I guess, for the people who think, oh, you're drafting a first round tackle for to be backing up. I mean, this would be a good example for him to sit down, because Lane Johnson's only going to have 2 more years, and again,
and if you
good
draft
policy.
him in the first, You draft him in the first round, you potentially have 5 years, not 4.
Right. You get that right. We'll go with Dewan just because he has a lot of upside. He's a high ceiling, and
You're going Dewan Jones?
if there's somebody that can develop him into a top tier elite tackle, it is just Allen.
So we're going to go Dewan Jones, offensive tackle, Ohio State.
Yep.
That is the pick.
Zay Flowers is also intriguing because it's also interesting how they haven't addressed receiver yet in free agency. Not even a single receiver.
Yeah, not even a veteran. That is interesting. I will give you that.
And I know Quez is good. Quez has, he has good traits, but he let you down a lot last year, and you got to get some kind of reassurance.
Especially losing Zach Pascal too. They did lose Pascal, so
yeah, right. I mean, Pascal is not, he's not your possession guy, but he was very good for the hidden stuff.
I think I'm going to pass on a trade.
Yeah.
All right, let's see who we have here. A lot of defensive tackles. Interesting. Hendon Hooker still on the board. Jordan Battle went right before the Eagles. Any big names that went? Darnell Wright went to the Bears. Kincaid went to the Panthers. Keon White went to the Titans. Darnell Washington went to the Jets.
I like Josh Downs a lot.
Yeah. Zay Flowers.
Zay
Flowers seems
like wow.
Usoma. Kalijah Cansey to the Steelers. Interesting.
Yeah, Jameer and Cansey is not falling that far.
Yeah, I don't see that. Will McDonald, I like him a lot. So looking at this, and for me, looking at the Eagles, I know they want to get another edge rusher, and I'm going to do Tui Pelotu. He's going to be with his brother Marlon.
I wouldn't be surprised if they pick him. Get the brothers back together.
I'm going to go with Tui Pelotu. With that, I was thinking about going possibly safety and stuff, but like we've talked about, they value those trenches, and I feel like if an edge rusher is available in the second round, if you don't get big time edge rusher in the first round, I think definitely second round will be the way to go for them when you're looking at that. This is
What did we trade for again?
We got we have 94 and 95, which is nice.
Okay, we're sick. Wow, back to back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm doing any trades.
All right, what we got going on here? I do like Kendall Miller a lot, and I would not be surprised if they went running back. This type of Henry. I do like Henry 2-2. He's keep going down a little bit. Go to the safety if possible. Safety position.
So Chris Smith, Jair Brown, Ronnie Hickman, Jamie Robinson.
We took Jair last time. I don't want to do that again. But again, we're also being Howie for this episode. Go back to the all if possible.
Yeah. So Kai Blue Kelly from Stanford is the top player right now from their board.
Can you scroll down a little bit more?
Yep.
Between two guys here. And
so, yeah, there's some decent names still on the board. Again, we do have a pick at 95 as well, which is nice.
I'm really big on Kendall Miller. It's just about would they want to address more defense because Henry 2-2-0, again, really big on him. And this is kind of where they draft linebackers this time of the draft.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't put it past them to do that. I mean, yeah. Let's go Henry, just because I think, with the way they've been addressing linebacker, they don't have Morrow is a question. They didn't give him anything guaranteed. So, I mean, he's an SEC product. Howie obviously has been prioritizing those guys. So, I mean, he gives you a good run stopper. So, let's see what we can do next pick.
I'm going Jair Brown. I know we.
Okay. I mean, he was going to be – if we didn't pick him last episode, I would have picked him.
Yeah. And I'm just going with the need aspect, and I just think he can do so many different things on the back end of that defense. I think he fits what the Eagles want to do, and you're getting yourself a young safety in the 3rd round. I think it's a no-brainer on that front. Let me see here.
My contact is driving me nuts right now.
It's like a Jeopardy. Taking a little bit.
Yeah,
Trying to think, because I don't think we have any picks now until the 7th.
Right.
So, but again, when you look at Howie Roseman, addressing the trenches, and we didn't get a corner, but we did get the edge rusher. We got the defensive tackle. We got the offensive tackle. We got the safety. So we did address certain positions that the Eagles, when you look at them, a little bit weak at, to kind of build up that depth, and knowing what the Eagles do in the draft. And if they don't get someone or anything along the lines of a position that they thought may have been there, they're going to address it in free agency. They may sign a player, a veteran player. And again, they did sign Greedy Williams, who is 25, will be 26 years old. If he shows anything, then they still have a younger player, and they do have, Slay and Bradbury under contract for a couple years. So if they don't address corner high in the draft this year,
it's tough.
Potentially next year. But again, it is tough, because how many top corners in the first round don't pan out? And yes, you have the J.C. Horns, who play, who's a good talent. Patrick Surtain, you have Sauce Gardner. But then you also have players in the later rounds in recent years as well. So
it's tough, because you have these aging corners, and as much as they wanted to bring back Slay and Bradbury, you were in a very good position to land. I mean, I personally think Devin Witherspoon is going to be a superstar. Christian Gonzalez, he's the prototypical, this like ideal, like today's like corner, great length, great ball hawk. You know what I mean? Those are 2 guys where you just can't miss on. And I understand you want to, Bradbury off an all-pro season, Slay, have also a pretty decent start to the season, but I understand how they address defensive line and offensive line, but it would have been great to get Witherspoon or Gonzalez, and it's still possible, but I just don't think it's going to be.
So now this is the last pick of our mock, and you are on the clock, and you get to select.
Can we look at running backs?
Mm-hmm. See who we have here.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm going to say not a very high talent. A lot of undrafted free agents here.
Yeah, that's where the Eagles kind of like with Brooks last year. Go to quarterback.
There you go, Sean Clifford.
Sean Clifford. That means definitely not getting drafted. Alrighty. How about tight end?
Some decent talent. Cameron McDonald, Josh Wiley, Davis Allen, Brenton Strange. So there are some decent names there. That's actually draftable players.
And then let's go to defense. Can we go to corner?
Let's see here. Not very much.
And then last one, edge, if possible.
Edge, yeah. See here.
Go back to tight end. We might go McDonald here.
Cameron McDonald.
Yeah, let's go Cam.
All right, so Cameron McDonald, they get that tight end.
I'm surprised they didn't address it during free agency. Nothing wrong with Jack Stoll. He's a very good, old school tight end who can block well. But you got to get somebody who can do a little bit of both. I mean, this is a solid draft right here.
So a very solid draft. When you look at it, Jalen Carter, DeJuan Jones, Tuli Tuipulotu, Henry Tuatuo, Jair Brown, and Cameron McDonald. So again, they did address certain positions that they needed to address to get some depth that we've spoke about, that really everyone's spoke about when you look at the lines. And again, we kind of went as what we think the Eagles would do, and addressing the lines is definitely something that they would do. And that's kind of the way that we approached it. So hell of a draft. If it were to end that way, if it were to, go that way, I wouldn't be upset one bit. I'd be pretty stoked to get that kind of haul. Yeah, you don't have a ton of picks and you missed out on certain positions you'd like to have stocked up at, but if you're able to get the kind of talent that you're able to get with that, I would be more than happy.
Yeah, and I'm very interested to see how they address the gap between day 2 picks and day 3. I mean, they're going to obviously be trading back at some point. It's just a matter of when. And I would like to say number 30 is where they are probably going to be moving back. I don't want to guarantee anything, but I mean, when you have a team that wants to get that fifth year extra with their first round pick, and the Eagles don't have someone they're sold on, there's probably a team that's willing to to oversell or overpay for that pick. So, it's going to be a fascinating situation, and I cannot wait for the draft. Cannot wait to see how everything unfolds, because the Eagles are in prime position to land a top name, big body prospect. And for a team that's off a Super Bowl, that doesn't happen at all. So
the last thing I want to bring up before we get off here is Mel Dean posted on Twitter about 32 teams using their fastest DB, linebacker, running back, and wide receiver for a 4x1, for a relay, basically. Race. And of course, a bunch of players talked about it, replied to it saying, "Oh, we would win." And Darius Slay said, "Eagles, hands down." He didn't say that exactly, but he said somewhat of the line about that. So if you're looking at the Eagles, who would be your DB, linebacker, running back, and wide receiver players that you would put in a relay race?
Interesting. So receiver, obviously Quez. That's undisputed.
You would put Quez over the Olympian Devin Allen?
Oh, right. Well, isn't he technically on the practice squad? So does he still
He still counts because he's on the roster right now.
Oh, well then Devin Allen then. I didn't know if he would count, because if we're going active players, then it's Quez. But even still, I think Quez would probably still.
Quez is pretty fast.
Quez, I mean, Devin Allen, he's a hurdler. So I mean, I think Quez ran like a 4. I think Quez is still the move.
You're right. He is a hurdler. He's not.
I'd go Quez, running back. I want to say Gainwell, just because
I went Boston,
but he has short legs, and I feel like that would kind of catch up to him at some point. I'm going Quez, Boston, linebacker.
I got a linebacker.
Who's your linebacker?
Davion Taylor.
Ooh, he's still on the roster?
Yeah. Still on the roster.
He's practice squad, isn't he? We're doing it. Okay, yeah. Davion's quickish. Davion's very athletic. That's for sure. He's on the roster.
He'd be a good pick when you're looking at.
You know what? Yeah, no, Davion.
DB is where I got kind of hung up.
DB, let's take a look here. DB. I feel like Greedy has some sneaky speed to him.
He's got length. He's long. That's
Slay. He doesn't got him anymore. Bradbury, he does not. There's no way. Maddox might have some sneaky speed.
Greedy did run a 4.37.
What do you think Justin Evans' time was? His 40 time was?
Yeah, but he's had all those injuries. You gotta.
He ran a 4.5. No way. I'm gonna go Greedy. Just because
what you said with Greedy makes, I didn't think of that at first, but when you look at his length, I really think that's definitely
Greedy ran a 4.3.
Yeah, he was fast.
4.7.
And you look at the other, Kayvon Wallace is a no, like the safety position. There really no one else that, Josiah Scott, Zach McPherson, nobody else that really pops off as super speedy.
I'm going through the quotes. Who do you think would like out of all the teams would win? Because when the first team that I envision is like the Dolphins, like Tyreek Hill, and let's say I don't know Ramsey or Xavier. But I feel like when you have Tyreek Hill, you're just not going to lose.
Yeah, I guess
running back Raheem Mostert. Oh my God, yeah, they would never lose. Raheem Mostert, no, yeah, the Dolphins would cook everybody.
What about? Hold on one second. I do have one. What about the Jets? They have Mecole Hardman.
Mecole, DB, Sauce, linebacker. I mean, yeah, there's some potential there.
What about a team like, I know you don't want to say it, but the Cowboys, Brandon Cooks, Micah Parsons.
Parsons would be a very quick linebacker. I think Dolphins is I think Dolphins would cook anybody. I think they would probably win by a whole second.
Yeah, because they had Mostert, Tyreek Hill.
Mostert, Tyreek Hill is all you need, and then you can have either Ramsey or you can have Xavier. Safeties was Eric Rowe, but now he's got signed today. But
one more player I want to look up. What team does he play for?
I mean, even Jalen Waddle. Like you replace Hill with Waddle, they're still incredibly fast. Oh my God, Javon Holland, yeah, give me that. The Dolphins are not losing.
Yeah, Dolphins, I think it is pretty good. Looking some other teams with some fast players, stuff like that. Cleveland Browns, either Marquise Goodwin or Anthony Schwartz are very fast. Goodwin, I think, used to be. Marquise was track and field and Olympics, competed in the 2012 Olympics. Their DBs and everything. Denzel Ward, linebacker, JOK. I know he was fast.
Jock.
And then looking at a running back for them, Chubb. So
yeah,
it's a fun exercise. I saw it. I wanted to add it at the end here, but I think that was a good show there talking draft. We're gonna keep kind of talking a little bit about the draft. I know there's some news. Eagles will probably sign a player like they always do after our show.
Give it 2 hours.
Right. Yeah, definitely. We're gonna be trying to get some draft people on, kind of talk a little bit about some of the prospects, bringing up some names, kind of breaking some stuff down and how they would fit the Eagles. I think next episode maybe we'll break down between 5 or 10 guys that we could potentially see, whether it's first round guys or kind of mix it, maybe half first round type of guys and then half basically maybe some sleepers in there as well. But definitely kind of give some more draft breakdowns and everything for the weekly report. But I myself is Johnny Uleka and Kendall as always. And the way we end it is a very happy and joyful. Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.